so glad you clicked on this video because today is like an official holiday here at Whiskey and Wit because it is Dupe Day. We do this every major season, everything from Easter, summer, fall, and Christmas. I scour the internet. I find high-end or just really cute items that we can DIY for much cheaper than what we can buy them for. And today I've got a whole new round of fall and Halloween inspiration for you. Now, before we hop in, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future fall content if you're not already a craft buddy. Let's get into it. Our first inspo piece comes to us from Pottery Barn. It's these faux acorn oak branches. They wanted almost $40 for one branch, so instead I headed to the floral section at Hobby Lobby just because they are running sales right now versus Michael's and they were cheaper there. I grabbed an acorn stem for under $6 and a maple leaf pick. I also grabbed some eucalyptus stems. I originally was going to do it with the maple leaf, but I thought they looked better on the eucalyptus stem. These are so easy to do. You're just going to pop off the acorn. A lot of faux florals are able to be intermixed like this, so you can get a really custom stem at home really easily. I'm just popping them off, and then I'm finding little open nubs on the other one to put it in there. Now, to create a really pretty high-end fall display, I am going to bend out those maple leaves so they don't look as scrunched, and then I'm going to finish adding the acorns to my eucalyptus stems. Now, I found some of this filler stuff, which is this yellow that I'm using, is better if you break it apart because you can really control where it's going to go in your arrangement. Then I am going to grab my centerpiece, which is the maple leaf, and I'm going to add my outer pieces, twisting as I go to make sure each side is full. Then when you have it where you want it, I use some jute twine to hook it together. And if you have some leaves where you're seeing the back and they look kind of cheap, just pop it out, flip it around, and put it back on. Then once everything at the top is tied with jute twine, we are going to bend the bottoms up so it fits in the vase that I want to use it for, but then I'm not getting rid of the bottom in case I want them to be long later. And then we're going to add them to a really pretty amber glass vase I got from Target, but you can get those really anywhere this time of year. And it is so pretty, so high end, and I made this entire thing for under $20 versus the $40 that they wanted for the one item at Pottery Barn. Also, throughout this video, I wanted to share with my craft buddies some fun items that I'm finding that aren't DIYs, but they are cheaper versions of high-end items. One being this really pretty wooden pumpkin. This came from Walmart, of all places. They are starting to roll out their fall stuff, and I think this is beautiful. It's under $15. I will link everything, including supplies that I'm using today, down in the description for easy shopping. Up next, we are checking out Anthropologie, and I thought these guest soaps were beautiful. I had some soap left over from a recent mystery box, and I grabbed this little pumpkin mold from Hobby Lobby. You can grab these really anywhere, and as long as it's silicone, it will work. You can also find candy melts or cake pop ones for fall, and just make sure you're not doing soap and then food. I have this block of soap. It is a shea soap that is so nice on its own. It feels really good on your hands. And I cut it into little cubes and put it into my crafting measuring cup. Now, I have this specifically in my craft room. Again, this is another thing. I don't mix between food and crafts. Then it's as easy as microwaving it in 30-second increments, just like you're melting chocolate, and you're going to stir in between. I'm just using a craft stir stick, and you want to do it until you don't have any chunks left. Now it's time to get creative. You can add scents and color. I am doing a pumpkin scent that I got from Amazon, but you could use whatever works, or if you want it to be unscented, you could do that too. And then I also just got creative and tried to get the right orange color. I did a mixture of a light yellow, dark yellow, and a red from a coloring kit. Now, the key here is you want to make sure you're getting something that is made for soaps because you don't want to use the soap and then have your hands turn orange. So just make sure that you have a soap colorant. All the major craft stores have it, as well as Amazon, so you can find it easily. Once that's all stirred, you want to work kind of quick because you don't want it to start to harden in your glass container. We're going to pour it into the mold, and I don't have a use for a ton of these, but you can make as many as you want. I just mixed up enough for 2 pumpkins, poured it in, let it sit for a couple hours just to make sure it was fully hardened, and then you just pop it right out of the silicone mold, and look how cute these are. I love these for our bathroom downstairs. It is so fun and festive. I just put it on a sealed wooden spoon rest that I got from Target, so it kind of adds to the overall vibe. And the other great thing, hidden benefit here, husband loves washing his hands with the Fun soap. I've talked about this before, so it's a great way as we head into cold and flu season to make hand washing fun. And my hands feel so good after this. I like to use it too. I was able to make my set of 2 for under $10 or essentially free because I had this from other projects, but if I were to buy all the items, probably under $10. And that is 50% off from what Anthropologie was selling theirs for. And the great thing is you can get so creative, you can make whatever shapes and whatever colors you want. I've been eyeing this Happy Big Mouth decorative pumpkin from Antique Farmhouse for a couple years now, and this is the year that I'm going to dupe it. The other great thing about this project is you can use it for fall and Halloween. Don't write it off if you're not a Halloween person. Let me show you. So I grabbed this paper mache pumpkin for under $8 from Hobby Lobby, and if you're going to do the jack-o'-lantern face, you're going to rough it out with a pencil. I'm just doing a general face that looks similar to the inspiration, and it doesn't have to be perfect, just give yourself some guidelines. Then I took my Ryobi craft knife and cut out the face, and then I went through a second time to enhance any features. Then that way it is a lot easier to kind of whittle away to get what you want. Then when you're happy with your face, or if you're not doing a face, just take your pumpkin outside and we're going to spray paint it with this rustic orange color from Rust-Oleum. It is beautiful, and this handle, I've had it in my garage for a while. I lost it, I found it. It is so helpful when you are using spray paint. I'm going to give the entire thing one coat. I didn't have to do it twice, which is great. And here's what it's going to look like. Then I brought it back inside, and I first decided to do the stem with a makeup sponge, and it didn't give the coverage that I wanted. So I ended up going back with a paintbrush and covering it in the color Espresso. And then here is where the magic happens. We're going to take some antique wax and we're going to buff it, starting with a paintbrush to get it into the crevices, and then we're going to buff it out with a paper towel. I'm going to continue that all the way around. I'm going to do it around the stem. I'm also going to buff it into the face of the jack-o'-lantern, and that is going to give it the overall rustic vibe we're looking for. After it was what I wanted, I took it outside, I gave it a quick coat of clear sealant just to make sure that it wasn't going to scratch or chip off, and then this thing is ready to go. The great thing about it too is that for Halloween season, you can have the jack-o'-lantern face out, and then for all the other times, just flip it around. Or if you don't put the face on, just have this really fun rustic pumpkin. I love the size. It's great if you've got little kids running around because if it falls, it's not going to hurt anybody, and I love this color, but you could make this in any pumpkin color from rustic white to green to whatever floats your boat. I love multi-purpose decor. Now, if you are giving the hard eyes to these faux pumpkins, you are not alone. I loved them too. Hobby Lobby's faux pumpkins this year are amazing, and I grabbed a few of these for staging projects like this and also for our porch because it's covered, but these look so real and they're not going to rot on me. So definitely check out Hobby Lobby for some beautiful, beautiful faux pumpkins for your setup this year. A few weeks ago, I asked all of my email craft buddies to send me ideas for things that you wanted duped. And thank you so much for everybody that sent stuff in. I got so many emails, and one of the most requested ones was this Doug and Friends and other icon and graphic stoneware from Pottery Barn. So initially I thought to myself, how in the world am I going to do this? So I scoured the internet and I figured out a way to do it. So my adventure started at Walmart to find some plates that I wanted. I knew I wanted to put it on a white or like ivory cream surface, so I grabbed some of these plates, and I also grabbed this stoneware mug. I also made a quick trip to the candle aisle and grabbed this orange candle. Now, step one was to measure everything so I knew what size I wanted the artwork to be on everything, from the plates to the candles to the mug, and then it was time to find the artwork. Let me show you how I did that. While you're not able to do the exact artwork, here is how I kind of scour the internet for something similar. So you're going to find what you want. So here's this. It's a lot easier if it's like one image. So maybe we try this one. I take a screenshot of it. Then I head over to Google and I use this little button, which is Google Lens. And you are going to upload that screenshot that you just took. Then what that's going to do is it's going to search for different things on the internet, and I do this a few times until I'm able to find artwork that I'm looking for. So a lot of these, it's going to show you the ceramic things, so you can add to it printable art. So then now it's going to start to show like printables and artwork, and you can kind of work your way through until you find what you're looking for. Now, how are we going to add it? Dun, 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 dun. Water slide decals. Now, I'm sure a ton of you have used this before. I hadn't. This was just sitting in my craft room for over a year, and I decided to do it. So I followed all the instructions on the packaging. It was pretty straightforward, and if you need help sizing art to a certain size, I use Google Docs. I'll have a detailed video down below. You can watch it, and it will show you how to do that. So I printed everything out, and then I took it outside. I sprayed it in one direction, let it dry for 30 minutes, sprayed in the other direction, let that dry for 30 minutes, and then I went back and did the initial direction one more time and let it dry for 30 minutes. So I was just working on projects in between. When all that dried, I brought it upstairs and I cut them apart so that I was ready to add them. Now, for the transparent paper, you don't have to be as close. For the white paper, you have to be super close to your decal. Overall, through this process, I learned I like transparent much better. The downside is that doesn't work on dark surfaces, but I think overall, especially on the white plates and surfaces, it looks better. So we're going to cut this down and we're going to put it in some room temperature water. It's going to curl like this. Don't freak out. I followed the instructions. You're going to hear me say that a ton, but it was the first time doing it. So I followed the package and I put it in there for 60 seconds. And then while that was sitting in there, I added a little bit of water to my candle surface as well. You don't want it soaking, but you want it to be able to slide off. Then, as the name suggests, we are going to use the water to slide this decal off of the backer sheet onto our surface. So you want to be careful with this. It was something that you just want to take your time. But then once I slid it off, I was like, hey, this isn't terrible. This was a pretty easy to do process. Then I am going to take a paper towel, remove the extra water. And also, I got a little too big for my britches. I was like removing too much, going too quick, and then, but that's okay. I was able to fix it before it dried. And here's what this looks like. It was really easy to apply, and I like the transparent look on here, but I also did one in the white back. So here's what that looks like. So here's a comparison of the two. So you have that. Up next, I did my mug. So I was able to cut kind of close, but I didn't have to be right on this ghost figure. I put it in the water, 60 seconds, slid it off, and then I applied this little jack-o'-lantern graphic on the top to the back. So for the candle graphic, as well as the pumpkin bucket, and some of these vintage ones I'm going to show you in a second, that all came from Creative Fabrica, and then these other ones are going to be available over in my free file library. Now the big ones for the plates, I had a little bit more issue with just because they were a lot of surface area to work with, but I was able to kind of move it around, get it where I wanted. And for this big plate with this ghost graphic, I really needed to just peel the whole thing off and used a little bit of my experience with vinyl to get it on there. You want to try your best not to have any bubbles in there so it all lays flat. Once I got everything on there how I wanted it, I took it downstairs to my kitchen and I preheated my oven to 230 degrees. I put my items onto a cookie sheet just to make it easier to get in and out. I put it in there for 15 minutes per the package instructions. You can only do this for ceramic. You can apply this to other surfaces, but don't. The only thing you could bake is ceramics. And these turned out so good. The line from the water slide kind of melded into the surface, so it looks like it's just printed on there. And while I'm not going to be eating on the plates, I do plan to use the mug, so we'll see. It says you can wash it and everything, so stay tuned for my update on that. But I think these are so fun. They are going to be so great for decorating, like the appetizer plates to put things out, so I can't wait. I also made some coasters, and I did try the white backed on some black dishes. The ink cracked here, so I'll have to do a little bit more practice, but I did like how the white turned out on the candle. Let me know down below, have you tried water slides before? And let me know your tips and tricks if you have, because I'm going to keep doing this. Speaking of cups and glassware, here is a dupe that I was hoping that I could find for a good price this year. Anthropologie has these icon glasses every year and they're very expensive. Hobby Lobby has dupes, but they are only fall, not Halloween. I want some cute ones. So I got these from Walmart, and what really sold me was the fact that they are dishwasher safe. I cannot wait to have a festive beverage out of this cup. A lot of you also asked me to dupe a felt fall wreath, and I was like on it because I had recently seen an ad from Etsy and I thought they were so fun. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab some felt in the colors that we want, and you're also going to want one of these macrame hoops. I found them in more by the macrame supplies instead of the floral supplies. I got the second from the largest size. I believe this is 14 inches. I'll have the details linked down below. And then I made myself a template because that just helps me with cutting. I will put this in my free file library as well. And then I'm going to fold my felt in half long ways, and then I'm going to fold it in half again long ways. And with it doubled up, I'm going to measure my little leaf, and I can get 8 pieces out of each side. So then I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut out all the leaves. If you have a Cricut, you could definitely use that, but like I said in my last video, we're trying to make as many projects accessible to as many people as I can, so you can definitely cut these by hand. Now here are all of these, and I did all the colors and I put all the scraps in a bag for stuffing later. Thank you to the person that commented on my fabric video and let me know that. I'm going to be stuffing, you know, different sewing projects and things with that. Then I'm using some of this 18 gauge wire. You could definitely use floral wire. I just had this on hand from a project I didn't use, so I want to use it up. It's a little thick, so I will link down below what I would recommend instead, and it'll be cheaper for you. I cut as many pieces as I needed, and the quick way to do it is get a piece of masking tape the length of what you needed. I did 5 inches, but I would suggest 3.5 to 4 inches, so do as I say, not as I do. But then you can pull it out with your left hand, chop it, and then you've got all these pieces. We're going to add some glue to the end of each of our leaves and add 1 on each end. So for each of these, you are going to need 2 leaves. And I ended up doing 12 total of each. So you need 24 leaves, and you can also add more if you need to fill out your wreath, if it's bigger than mine. Then once I did all the colors, we are going to add it to the wreath. So we're going to start by folding it in half, and we're going to wrap it around. Then once you bring it back up to the center, you are going to cross them in an X. Now, when you start doing this, it's going to look a little wonky, so it's definitely a trust the process, but once you fold it in the X like this, then you're going to move on to your next one. I decided to do all of my deep red ones, and then I went through with the brown ones, and I continued to add them in a pattern. You could do them sporadically. You could also glue 2 different leaf colors to one strip. You don't have to do the same colors like I did. It's all what you want for how it's going to end up. Then I went around the entire thing, added everything that I needed to as far as the leaves, and then it was time to make it look way better because, like I said, looking a little rough. Now, the fact that you have this wire on here makes it really easy to bend and get the leaves to sit right where you want. So I kind of intertwined them, overlapped them, tucked them in, and the other goal you're going for here is to cover that silver wreath because it doesn't matter that silver, we're going to cover it, but that's what you're going for. So kind of fluff them, intertwine them. The best way I can describe it is it felt like I was fluffing a Christmas tree, but once you get it fluffed, the nice thing is it's going to make it easy for you to store this and get it out next year because you can just go through, give it a good fluff again, and it's going to be ready to display. Once you make it all the way around, you can finish it off with a ribbon or you can just have a full circle. I didn't feel like cutting any more leaves after I cut all those, so instead I used the chiffon ribbon from Hobby Lobby in the kind of wine color that matched the leaves, tied it on the top, and this is ready to go. I love how it looks on a red door, and I also love that you can kind of fold the leaves back and forth to pose them, and this is going to live on my interchangeable signpost I actually made in my Christmas video, so I will link that if you want to learn how to make this, but it is the perfect wreath for that, and I love the colors. I love how you can customize it, and I will probably definitely be making one of these for Christmas. This next dupe is kind of a mashup, so I loved this lit ghost string lights, and I've also seen a lot of creators doing this lit ghost wreath as a dupe, so I decided to kind of combine the two. We're going to start with one of these foam wreath forms. This is the 19-inch by 3.8-inch ones, and then I am also going to grab some of these little foam balls because we're going to make our ghosts smaller than the inspiration. So I started with some skewers from Dollar Tree. These are just barbecue skewers. You can also use toothpicks, and I cut them to a length that I wanted, and I started pushing them into the foam. This is why you need a foam wreath form, because this is how we're going to attach them. I went around and added these skewers, and then I also added these styrofoam balls until I felt like I had a good coverage going. I also didn't put them all straight, so some went up, down, to the side, because I wanted it to look like the ghosts were flying around. Once I had everything where I wanted, I kind of tugged on them to make sure everything was set. If you have them pop out, you can reinforce with just a little bit of hot glue. Then we're going to add some lights. So I had these left over from Christmas. I like them because they're battery powered. They do a bunch of different things, and I know I can hide the pack when I hang up the wreath. So I'm just going through and wrapping it around. This doesn't have to be pretty because we're going to cover it. And then I'm going to cut some of this ivory muslin fabric I got from the fabric section at Hobby Lobby. You can use stark white if you want that, but I wanted mine to feel a little bit more antique-y and rustic. I cut approximately 8x8, 7x7 squares. They don't have to be perfect, and I put them on top of each of the little balls so that I knew I had enough fabric. Then once I did a quick dry, then once you know that you have everything sitting where you want and that the lights work, then you can go ahead and glue on your pieces of fabric. I started at the top where I wanted the top of the head of the ghost to be, and then did either side. And then I realized I needed to hang it up because I needed to understand where each ghost was going to land. I used that gravity to get everything where I wanted, and I also, as I went, cut out 2 little eyes for each ghost. I hot glued those on, worked my way around, and anywhere where there was like a winged out ghost sheet, I glued it to the foam. I'm using a low temp heat gun, and that is it. It is quick and easy to put together. It is a ton of fun, and I love this. I wanted it to look kind of sporadic, like the ghosts were almost flying out of a haunted house, but if you want them to be more symmetrical, you can definitely do that. The glow is awesome. If you've been around a while, you know my affinity for glowing wreaths, especially not during Christmas time, because it starts to get dark here during the fall here in Illinois, and I like to have this glow. Now, to get the box for the lights to stay, I just pushed the wreath hook into my foam wreath, and then I had enough room behind to put the box for the batteries. So that worked out really well, and I love this. Every year, Pottery Barn comes out with some fun Halloween pillows, and they're like $70 a pop for a pillow. Well, I was really excited to see that my local Costco had the Gus the Ghost dupe as well as these little jack-o'-lanterns. So the jack-o'-lanterns are so fun on their own, and the other great thing about these is you could do the exact same thing we did with the pumpkin before, where you just turn it around and it could be for fall and Halloween. And if you can't find these at your Costco, I have done tutorials on how to make a Gus the Ghost just with regular old craft supplies, as well as the jack-o'-lantern, so I will link that down below. That was a dupes video a few years ago, but I wanted to take the one that I found at Costco and make it into this Miss Gus the Ghost. So I created a template for myself. I will share this with you over in my free file library, and you're going to cut this little rectangle as well as this wonky bat shape. Then when you get it cut out, we're going to accordion fold it together, and it's going to create this little bat bow that matches the inspiration. Now you can either glue this together to stay and then put the strip around, or do what I did and use some cheap embroidery floss in black to just stitch it together. I just hand stitched it with just a running stitch, super easy, but then that way if the boys lay on the pillow or something, it's not going to feel crunchy from hot glue. Once I had the bow all stitched together, I tied it off, and then I just did a quick little running stitch to tack it onto that outside piece of the pillow. Now, what is this ghost without some cute little eyelashes? I did that with a back chain stitch, I believe is what it's called. You guys that sew are going to roll your eyes at me because I call them random things, but I just added the lines on either side with a stitch and tied it off. That's as easy as it gets, and the great news here is if you made it this far into this video, I am giving away one of these pillows. I bought an extra one, so if you comment down below, let me know what I should name her, because Miss Gus the Ghost, she needs her own name. So we've got Gus, and one of my thoughts is Gracie, Gus and Gracie, but if you've got another idea, put that down in the comments, and I will pick my favorite, and that person will win a Gus the Ghost that you can DIY or just leave as is. Something else I fell in love with on the Pottery Barn site is this flameless ghost taper candle. I found some cheaper ones on Amazon that are not flameless, but I don't plan on lighting them, but they are really cute on these Hobby Lobby candlesticks, and they have the texture that I was going for, so I wanted to share these two in case you liked that look but wanted to get it for less. Now, these last two projects were definitely a labor of love. I saw this Mickey Pumpkin and Mickey Ghost Halloween buckets on the Pottery Barn kids site, and I thought we could definitely make those. So let's start with the ghost. We're going to start with this firm felt, so it's firmer than just like a traditional wool felt, and I created another template. This just is a lot easier for me to do a template to cut things out. So we've got the ears and we've got the ghost. You're going to do 2 ghost bodies, and then you're going to need 4 pieces of the ears. I just like to use some masking tape to stick down my paper, and then that way it's not going to move as I'm cutting it out. The other thing we're going to want to cut out is a face. Again, I've got another template for this, but the Mickey face we're going to cut out. Then we're going to cut that out on just regular black felt like we did with the ears. Then I'm going to use a basting stitch to attach the face to one piece. So we're going to go around the outside, stick that down with the stitches, and then we're going to tie it. And then with the nose in place, I wanted to add some of these little lines at the bottom. You don't have to do this, but I did a back stitch here too. Same thing I did for the eyes on the ghost. And I did those kind of where the sheet of the ghost would naturally create lines. I followed what the Pottery Barn inspiration looked like. We're going to attach the rest of the Mickey face using the same process, and then I'm going to cut a strip the length of the felt, about 4 inches wide, for my strap. Just cut that strip. We're going to fold both sides into the center and then fold it in half again so you have a thicker strap. I clipped it, and then I'm just going to use a blanket stitch down the side. I'm also going to use a blanket stitch to hook together 2 of my ear pieces so that I've got a front and a back. You're going to do that by using the embroidery floss, tying a knot, and putting that through just one side so you can hide your tail on the inside. Then we're going to go back around through the front, and then as you pull it through, you are going to hold on to this little loop and put your needle through the loop. So up from the back, pull it through, hold the loop, and then go through the loop. It's going to create this little line around the outside. We did this in my last video with the garland, and it's a pretty easy stitch as you get going. You're going to do that all the way around the ears, leave a little opening so you can stuff it, put some polyfill or whatever stuffing you want to put in there, and then finish the blanket stitch and tie it off. We're going to blanket stitch, like I said, the handle just from the top to the bottom to keep it together, tie that off at the end, and now it's time to assemble. And to hook my 2 ghost pieces together, I needed 3-inch strips. That's just the size that the Pottery Barn was, so I went off their measurements. So I cut 2 strips of my piece of felt the long way, 3 inches wide, and then I used the blanket stitch again around the outside. So I did that starting on the back, and I started because I wanted to make sure it was what I wanted. So you're just going to use a blanket stitch around, and to go around the edges, you are just going to move the felt so it's even with the area that you're stitching. So here, do one of your blanket stitches, get it hooked on there, and then we're going to pull it so then that way it's even with the next piece, and that's how it's going to follow the curve. We're going to do that for the entire ghost. So finish the back and then the front. Also, my strip wasn't long enough to go around the whole thing, so I ended up just blanket stitching them together, and that's going to be on the bottom, so you're not going to see it. Then as I made my way around to the top, I went down that 3-inch piece to the center, put my strap there, and then I blanket stitched to the strap, and then I did just a bunch of stitches to reinforce it, and then blanket stitched the rest of the way. Then to hook the front on, I started about halfway down, went all the way around the bottom, and left the 2 top open, so then that way it would have more firmness to it when I went to add the ears. I went all the way around the outside so that I've got those 2 openings at the top, and then I inserted my ears and just did, like, I looped through it to hook on the ear. So I went up through the bottom, through the felt, the ear, and then the top felt, and then I looped back around and did the same thing to hook the ears and then tied that off. Repeat on both sides. Then my last step was to finish off any unfinished edges, so all of the open edges had a blanket stitch. So a quick recap, I did a blanket stitch on the handle all the way around the outside, all around, and the ears. To attach the ears in this little spot, I just did a basting stitch. I did a basting stitch here, and then I did like an across and an X for the handles to reinforce them. It takes a little bit of time, but it is definitely not hard. And look how cute! I love that this is so lightweight. This is going to be perfect for my little guy, Henry, and I love this. I think we're going to keep this for years, and overall the cost was so inexpensive. The 2 felt pieces were $1, so $2. The black was 25 cents, and that makes it way less than the Pottery Barn one, and also I get satisfaction being able to say that I made it. Now what about the pumpkin one? I purchased this Peter Pumpkin tote pattern from Abby Made, and I will link that down below, but I thought I could easily take this pattern and adjust it to be the Mickey pumpkin. This was a tad overzealous for me just because I am such a beginner sewer, but it was a fun project to work my way through. So I used her pattern for the pumpkin shape, and then I added my own ear shapes. So I cut 4 of those, and then also the Mickey face. It's the same size as the one we used on the ghost, so I will have that linked as well as my ear sizes. I cut everything out and I did the outside in this really pretty burnt orange color and the inside lining in black. I also did the face in black. I followed her pattern to a T. The only thing I had to change there was attaching the ears and then putting on my Mickey face instead of putting on the jack-o'-lantern face that it comes with. And this, like I said, was a fun project, and I wanted to share because A, I'm proud of how it turned out, and B, I wanted to share it because so many of you said last week that you also sew. So if you wanted to make this, I wanted to share how I made mine. Now to create my ears, I quilted them just like I did all the other pieces for the pumpkin, and then I put the two pieces right side together and sewed around the outside, left an opening, flipped it inside out, and stuffed it. Then I added the face to my Mickey pumpkin, and that is going to be 2 panels of the pattern. And then on the outside of that, I added the ears. So I put the ears facing inside, and I did right sides together. So you just insert those inside as you're adding the panel and then sew those on. After a ton of seams being ripped, I finished my Mickey pumpkin. I am so proud of this. It's not perfect, like I said, but it is definitely something that I am so excited to display and have the boys use. I think these are so cute. And in materials, it definitely took me a decent amount of time, but in materials, these are A, cheaper than the Pottery Barn ones. And I also love that, like I said, I can say that I made them. So let me know down below if you try these out. I think they are so cute, and they are a great project just to do as you've got a show streaming in the background. I hope you loved this latest round of fall and Halloween dupes. As always, head down to the comments and let me know your favorite. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any future Whiskey and Whit content. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!